Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for yet another installment in our new figure showcase series, where I take a look at a new figure I'm adding into the collection. And for today's installment, we're going to be taking a look at a new third-party figure from a new company that I've never gotten before, which is Giant Exhibition Toys. Now, this is their version of Lucy from the Fallout TV show, basically one of the residents of Vault 33. Great TV show. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch it and you're even remotely a fan of the games or even just a fan of good science fiction, it is a pretty amazing show. I was very impressed with it, and which is why I ended up getting this figure, right? Now, there hasn't been any licensed figures from the show right now, although 3.0 has given us some figures from the video game, as well as a male vault dweller that they put out for pre-order, which I did order as well. But Lucy, if you're familiar with the character from the show, she's a little bit naive, right? And she emerges into this post-apocalyptic world and ends up going on a journey of sorts. So it's a great show. I don't want to give away any spoilers, although the show's been out, right? Season 2 is incoming. Giant Exhibition is doing the Ghoul as well, which is another key character from the show. Haven't ordered that one yet, but basically let's see how this turns out, because with third party there's always that question mark, right? Especially with a new third party company, is how is the figure overall going to end up, being. So let's take a look at what this figure comes with, which, it's a decent amount of accessories, nothing crazy, right? You are getting an array of hands, which is to be expected with all these 6-scale figures. You are getting a decent amount of them as well, right, to hold all the different pieces of equipment. The hands are a little bit pliable. Then you do get 2 weapons of sorts, a canteen, a backpack. You do get that head with rooted hair, which if you're familiar with the show, you know what that's from. And then you do get the display stand, which is more in line with some of the more modern Hot Toy stands. So that's pretty much it. So jumping into the accessories, let's start with the hands. And again, as mentioned, right, these are very flexible, very pliable, which sometimes is great, especially when you're trying to get accessories into the hands themselves and have and avoid any paint rub and the like. So it's nice to have that pliability, but they're serviceable. They just lack a little bit of the detail we've seen from some of the other companies. Now, the next accessory is this head, right? I'm gonna delve into some spoilers, right? Basically, there is a chip implanted in this character's head, and as he's trying to make his way to the resistance or of sorts, basically Lucy has to cut off his head and carry it through on the journey with her. You could tell it's definitely not screen accurate to what we saw on screen, right? The hair is terrible, needs some work. But look, it's an added accessory, but again, if you're looking for screen accuracy, it is not here. Now, next up, you do get those accessories that we had mentioned, the weapons that we see her use in the show as well, and they do insert into holsters in her suit, as well as the canteen. Detail, pretty decent, right? Very bright and silver paint applications, which again, based on the show and her coming from Vault 33 where everything is fairly pristine, makes sense. Although they do feel a little flat in the sense that it almost just feels like and it is one molded piece. So serviceable, but we've seen better. And then you do get the backpack. A backpack is a great recreation of what we saw in the show, with the distinctive 33 and the Vault logo on it, as well as that blue and kind of muted yellow. My biggest concern are the pleather straps. They are pleather, and we all know that that's susceptible to damage, so we'll see how this holds up in the long run, but a really nice accessory. So look, jumping into the figure, we gotta start with the sculpt. It's third party, right? I know what I'm getting into when I get third party, right? You sometimes have some amazing surprises where the likeness to the character is there. This you can kind of tell who it's supposed to be, but I don't think it's got the detail that we've been accustomed to, especially from some of the premier companies in the game at this point, right? The detailing is soft. The eyes are much more doll-like as opposed to lifelike that we're used to. So is it a decent attempt? Yeah, I'll say it's a decent attempt, but obviously just lacking in some of those details that we've seen in the past. Now, as far as the uniform itself, I do think the uniform is pretty nicely done, although I do think the screen printing on the back with the vault number is a bit sloppy. There is some weathering to the suit as well, from her being in the wasteland and whatnot. Again, bigger concern are just the accessories, right? The belts and the different pads, because they are pleather. So longevity, again, continues to be kind of one of those big concerns. But I will give Giant Exhibition credit, because there is a lot of good detail here and a lot of good things that they did replicate. So overall, I think it is a good replica of what we saw in the show. Now, my personal favorite is the pad that she wears on the on her wrist. Now, the way they did it, it's basically just an epoxy over the very antique looking green screen. It's really well done, and you can actually read what it says. So if you're a fan of the show, a fan of the game, you know what this piece of equipment is, and I think they did a great job recreating it. Now, as far as the figure overall, my initial thought was, okay, decent for third party. Not the worst, nowhere near the best. One of the biggest things I do have, or the biggest issues I do have, is she does seem a little tall, right? The proportions on her are a little bizarre, where like her legs just seem a little long, to be expected with third party, right? Poseability, the body's not bad overall. I didn't find any issues with really posing her up in that sense, but I did notice that kind of having her head shift, especially with the ponytail does seem to have some pivot points, but it doesn't work that great. So just something to be aware of as well. Just be careful when you're posing her up. But overall, not bad, right? The biggest issue I have, and I have a close-up, are the hands, right? You do have the ability to hold all the accessories, which is great, right? That's what you want to do when you pose up your figure. Now, I did heat up the pegs a little bit, but the system that they're using is just, it's very difficult to get the hand into the peg. So you're going to see a close-up shot now of kind of the most insertion that I was able to get from the peg into the hand itself. Now, again, if I work it and continue to use the heat gun, I might be able to push it a little bit more, but it was just annoying, right? And then the peg is not ratcheted. It's not one of those that we've gotten with Hot Toys, right? Hot Toys is kind of an expert at those at this point, or Dan Toys, right? So there's a lot of give, so it's just not the best system, and I found that the hands tended to pop out of the peg as well, which isn't great when you're trying to pose up the figure. So look, where do I stand on this? If you're a fan of the show, this is right now your only option of having a Lucy, right? So it really depends on how much of a fan of the show you really are to kind of push you to get this figure. For me, am I happy that I have her? Yes, I think she'll be a great companion piece to the actual 3-0 armor that I have, and then the Vault Dweller that is incoming at some point soon. But again, if I weren't a fan of the show, I think there are other better options for figures. It's a decent first attempt. I don't think it's anywhere near the best figure. I think the likeness is lacking. I don't like the fact that the body is so elongated. Even the head, right? Well, it's an accessory. To get it to be screen accurate, you're definitely going to have to mess with the hair a little bit, right? The overall. So, look, I know it's strange after all those criticisms to say it's decent, but it is decent. It's just, don't go into this expecting to be blown away, right? So, just a few thoughts on this. Hopefully it helps if you're on the fence a little bit. And as always, we'll touch base on the next video.